portal takes, the portal gives. While we see some players leave the SEC, we have some newcomers into the SEC as portal season comes to a close. This is the new SEC podcast. I'm Hunter Ziesman here with Randall Adet Jr. We're talking the top 10 transfer newcomers to the SEC. We're only looking at players who did not play in the SEC before and are coming in. There's some good names on this list. Some, teams that had holes that needed to be filled. LSU's quarterback being one of the more media heavy ones. We wanted to break down a couple of these and go through their path to make it into the SEC and see if they could maybe win that new SEC Newcomer of the Year award that we saw introduced last season.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about this list. Like you mentioned, a lot of great players are going to be coming into the SEC. The Newcomer Award for the SEC, as you mentioned, is awarded to the best player that playing their first season in the SEC and obviously having incredible performances. So the last 2 years we saw Diego Pavia win it in 2024 and Trinidad Chambliss win it in 2025. Easy to make an impact at the quarterback position, hard to do it in the SEC, but two guys between New Mexico State and Ferris State that came into the conference and really just balled out. And so I was excited to put this list together with Hunter, really looking at guys who were transferring from other conferences to play their first season in the SEC.
Yeah. And who better to start the list with, talking about quarterback impact? We can start right at number 10. Kenny Minchey coming from Notre Dame to Kentucky. This is a huge get, just straight off the jump at adding a key piece to the offense. Statistically, you might think, okay, he hasn't done a whole lot, but he was playing behind some good quarterbacks at Notre Dame. Riley Leonard, CJ Carr this year. It's an important top 10 because of what they've done in the portal. Getting CJ Baxter from Texas, getting Javante Barnes, running back from Oklahoma, Nick Anderson from LSU. They're building a good offense to address the concerns that they had last year, not really having a good offensive performance.
Exactly. And they should feel really good, of course, with the guy at the helm, with Willie Stein, right? And what he's been able to do at Oregon, what he's been able to do at UTSA. Like it's been a kind of musical chairs for quarterbacks for Kentucky over the past couple of years between Will Levis. They had a transfer quarterback from NC State, drawing a blank on his name here. They've obviously had other guys come in, Brock Vandegrift. So you could be a little bit weary when you see that 4 or 5 star guy from a major program like a Georgia or Notre Dame in this case with Minchey. But I mean, all reports really do point to him being a solid quarterback. He was going to be playing at Nebraska right before he ultimately made the switch over to Kentucky. So I think, to your point, this list, we look at the top 10 players based upon need for these teams. And like, this ideally should address a huge need for them when it comes to the quarterback position.
Yeah. And they just hired their pass game coordinator, I think, as of the last few hours as us recording here, bringing in an analyst from Louisville to maybe add some dynamic play calling capabilities to this pass game at Kentucky. We'll see what they can do. They were a little bit low on points per game. They made the quarterback change from Calzada to Boley. Now you got Minchey building a whole new offense around him, a new team. This Kentucky team should look drastically different this year, especially offensively. So
they should. And don't make no mistake. Like, if they had the chance to keep Boley, that could have been helpful. Also, I remembered who that quarterback was. It was Devin Leary. He was good at NC State. Yep. Obviously transferred to Kentucky. They didn't play as well that season, but you had to replace Boley. So I think this is a good pick. Number 9. You want to go with our 9th player we ranked?
Yeah. Looking at Alabama, we have Devin Tompkins on the D line coming from USC, the Trojans. Interesting player, came in as a basketball player, a little bit undersized, I think around 215 pounds. Now they've tried to find his home in USC on the O-line, playing multiple positions on the D-line. Majority of snaps this year were in the B gap, but we've seen him step outside, over the tackle, outside the tackle. So we'll see how Alabama utilizes him as a pass rusher. A good need after a lot of the portal guys that have left and guys that have gone to the draft this year for Alabama.
Yeah, a lot of guys in the portal for Alabama went to Ohio State, right? Similar pedigree program. But Devin Tompkins, based upon what I saw last season, brings some pass rush pressure that the defense could use to replace what was there. LT Overton's going to be playing in the Senior Bowl, so that's another guy they're going to be losing from that D-line front 8 spot. So this is a good gap that they're filling and a good transfer pickup.
Yeah, I think he has a little bit of ways to go in the run stop, which we've seen be a key part of Alabama's defense that needs that additional boost. I'm going to attribute that a little bit to him moving around a lot positionally on the D-line, to where if Alabama can get him set in, they can find a good use for him as a pass rusher, where I think he's the most capable due to kind of his speed and size. But yeah, number 9, Devin Tompkins. Similar on the D-line, we can move to number 8.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a school that has done an amazing job of finding some D-line and defensive gems in the portal from other conferences. We got Anto Saka, the edge from going to Texas A&M from Northwestern. So 7 tackles last year individually, 13 total tackles, 3 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. Playmaker at Northwestern.
Yeah. 69 pressures over his 3 years. So you're bringing in some game experience, which I think when you have a guy like Elko focused on coachability, scheming, creating ways for these players to get to a quarterback, it's good to have a guy who has the brain for football and already has a lot of that game experience under his belt. Highlight for him last season was against Purdue, 6 pressures, 1 sack, 4 hurries, and a forced fumble in that game. He can be a good piece to plug into this Texas A&M defense that, again, revolving door, getting guys to the NFL. You're seeing a couple guys leave this year. Now you get another pass rusher in with seniority.
I like it. I mean, he this guy Elko does a good job of obviously finding Nick Scorton a couple years back from Purdue and Cassius Howell from Bowling Green a couple years ago as well. He's got a good pipeline when it comes to the Big Ten and a little bit of the MAC and finding these guys in the middle of the nation. So Anto Saka's our 8th best player when it comes to the newcomers in the SEC. And number 7, we got a little more flashier guy.
Yeah.
Hollywood Smothers, running back in Hunter's backyard. So Hunter, I think no one's better well equipped to talk about this guy than you.
Yeah, coming right down the road from me out of NC State, was at Oklahoma before that, prior to their entry into the SEC. So he still gets his name on the list because they weren't SEC yet. Going to Texas, this was a big one. Alabama thought they had him on lock. Texas kind of swooped in, stole him out from underneath. They had a running back need at the beginning of the portal season, losing 5 transfers away from the program. They only had 1 roster guy left, a true freshman in James Simon. They signed Raleek Brown from Arizona State. Now they bring in Hollywood Smothers. Raleek Brown says no problem to him. You now have a good running back room. This is good for them. Not a great running attack from Texas this year. Now you have Smothers to add a little bit of flash, and he's good in the pass game. I think is an important piece to note too.
Yeah. This seems to be a theme, in college football when it comes to these 2 solid running backs. Like Raleek Brown was a top 10 portal running back for Texas. Now they got Hollywood Smothers coming in. You look at schools like Notre Dame with Jadarian Prince and Jeremiah Love, and you look at other schools as well that like Quinton Judkins, Trayvon Henderson 2 years ago at Ohio State. These running backs are willing to save their legs, still improve their draft stock, and help be a part of a winning team. And so this is a huge pickup for Texas. And this guy, first team All ACC in a very packed running back conference in the ACC. Isaac Brown, Mark Fletcher, and 900 yards, 6 touchdowns. So overall, a good season for where NC State was kind of playing from a win-loss perspective.
Yeah, he could break one loose anytime. Like I mentioned in the past game, we've seen Arch Manning be really good in a couple games where he had that check down option with his running back. We saw that in the Oklahoma game. He was able to get the ball out quicker. There's 40 targets on the year at NC State for Smothers, so I like that part of his game as well. But yeah, building out a good room. And with running, you can't do it without a great O-line. That moves us to number 6 here. Staying at Texas, we got Melvin Siani. By way of Temple through Wake Forest, now to Texas.
I was going to say a little bit more of this ACC pipeline. He talked about the Temple piece, of course, coming from Wake Forest. A lot of moving up. AAC, ACC, SEC. Walking to the big leagues, big dog. Played in 13 games last season, all 13. Graded the 12th best blocker in the ACC last year, according to PFF. Didn't allow a sack all season.
Yeah. Only 5 guys played more snaps this year without giving up a sack than him. So, all credit to him. Only 9 pressures given up all year. It's a huge piece to an O-line that, especially early on, we saw be a real inhibitor to the success of Texas. Arch Manning, 22 sacks on the season, 159 pressures taken. Now you get a good left tackle playing on that blind side. They're doing a lot to this offense at Texas. And it's not just the flashy players, the Cam Coleman, the Hollywood Smothers, the Raleek Brown. You're getting guys that can win in the trenches.
Yeah.
And this isn't going to be their last guy on this list. So Texas fans, stay tuned because you're doing great things in the portal.
Absolutely. As expected from a program with their pedigree and their pockets. And so we're into the top 5.
Yeah.
And at number 5, I'll let you go ahead.
Number 5, we got a quarterback transferred in to Auburn from USF. We got Byron Brown. This could be 4, 3, 2, or 1 on this list, depending on how you value the rest of the Auburn program. But really, this is a key part. We've seen a little bit of a bad streak of quarterback play at Auburn. They haven't had a quarterback with a winning record since Bo Nix. It's been turnovers, some subpar play. Last year we saw them lean more heavily on the running from Jackson Arnold, had to make some changes throughout the year. Now with the changes to coaching, you bring in an experienced quarterback like Byron Brown. That could be the piece that Auburn needs, even though they had all the other departures from the transfer season.
Yeah, yeah. Focusing on the positives, obviously you bring in a well-seasoned quarterback. We've seen Peyton Thorne, we've seen Jackson Arnold. This is the first quarterback that they've brought in from the portal that has had really good passing statistics. Like that was not the case with Jackson Arnold. And I was someone I could thoroughly say, like, I kind of was downplaying his success given he was in the American Athletic Conference. But what stands out to me is his size from a height and weight perspective and what he can do on the ground, right? Yeah. So last season, 28 passing touchdowns, 14 rushing touchdowns. He's a mini Cam Newton, right? He had only 7 picks last year. And what really impressed me about him is he brings a lot of experience at the quarterback position. Like he got hurt in 2024, but in 2023, he had 26 passing touchdowns to 11 picks, but 11 rushing TDs. Yeah. So consistency over 2 full seasons, 11 rushing TDs, 13 rushing TDs, improvement in the interception column going from 11 to 7. This guy's ascending, and I think this could be a really good match when it comes to his play for Auburn.
Yeah, it's a dual threat quarterback that you can design an offense around and continue that progression. I mean, he doesn't make a whole lot of mistakes, and he's played in big games. Saw him beat Florida last year. While they did lose to Miami, he still was able to score in that game, still able to get things going. He has experience playing on big stages, even though it was at USF. I think he brings a lot to this team. Now, I wish they didn't lose all the other pieces. But
of course. And it's tough to keep everybody, especially when you bring in a new coach. It's a new regime, and there's just a lot of energy around losing there right now. So I don't blame the players that did decide to leave. And ideally, this season could help bring better players for Auburn. And this is one of those guys that could be one of those guys. And kind of just wrapping up this point, when you look at the amount of quarterbacks that have come into the SEC, one of these guys is going to hit. Like we've seen Aguilar ball, we saw Trinidad Chambliss ball, we've seen Pavia ball out. One of these guys from outside the conference is going to hit once again this season, and this could be one of those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And I look at 2 years ago with Taylor Green coming in with a little bit of dual threat capability, and you look at someone here who might have to shoulder some of that weight, and I think that he will absolutely be good. Like I don't think it'll be a fall off. I know we had question marks on Jackson Arnold going into the year. I think we doubted some of it at times, even going in. I don't feel that way here.
No.
Number 4, back to Texas. Rasheem Biles, linebacker. This is a good one. I mean, it's a huge addition to a defense because now you have a field general linebacker here. He can step down to the line. He can play back in coverage. He's good in run stops. 51 tackles last year at Pitt, interceptions against Louisville and Notre Dame. This could be one of the best transfer portal pickups coming into an already stacked transfer class.
Yeah, it was a deep ACC when it comes to top players. This guy won second team all ACC as a linebacker from Pitt. Like, as you mentioned, big interception and touchdown against Louisville as well. So athlete, 6 games with double-digit tackles. I don't think he'll have to have as much production this season with how Texas's defense has been historically. But he was, as you mentioned, a field general. Everywhere the ball was, you could find him. 2 forced fumbles as well. So he's making plays both catching passes and forcing the ball out of ball carriers' hands.
Yeah, and they've done great to continue just not needing one guy on defense to be that playmaker. 20 points per game allowed last season. That just good defense all around, and you continue to add to that with a guy here. It's hard to say too much about it because it is just one more piece to this team that they're continuing to build, and I think that some of their preseason hype for next year is a little bit more warranted than what they got going into this year. And I think that they could find themselves very easily early in the season, top 10, with an Ohio State game on the schedule, now getting to play in Austin.
Yeah, and again, the second year for Arch playing, of course, but defensively, Sark has not really missed a ton since he's been at Texas. So I expect him to play just as well this season.
Yeah. Now, before we get into the top 3, we're now into the final home stretch here. Maybe do a couple of honorable mentions, some guys who didn't make the list that we want to make sure we give a shout out to. A couple here off the bat. We have Isaiah Canyon, receiver from Georgia Tech, going to Georgia, and another receiver we have Darryl Gill going to Ole Miss. Any thoughts on these 2 guys here at the receiver position?
Yeah, Cannon's in my backyard, being in Atlanta here, right near Georgia Tech. So Georgia Tech transfer, four touchdowns in the air, 480 yards, in a very run-heavy offense. So take those stats with a grain of salt. Like, that's really good production. Big time body, going to have a Colby Young type role for Georgia. A lot has been said about Georgia's portal moves. They're a little bit lower in the portal rankings. I wouldn't pay attention to any of that. This is a solid pickup.
Yeah, you get your guys. Get the guys you want. It doesn't matter the volume at which you're going to get them. It's all about development. So this could be a good pickup for them.
I
want to hit up.
Go ahead.
No, go
No,
ahead.
I was going to say, I mean, even from a defensive guy, I really like Xavier Gilliam. I really like what Tennessee's doing. Like with the regime change at Penn State, they brought in a couple guys from Penn State, and one of those guys, Xavier Gilliam, he's really solid in the D line. That should help them create more pressure, an area they struggled with last year, even despite having Joshua Joseph on the edge.
Yeah, he's coming with friends. We'll talk about one of them in our top three. A couple more honorable mentions: Edwin Joseph, Ole Miss safety from FSU. Ole Miss, even though they had the coaching changes, thought that LSU was going to kind of eat their lunch there. They're continuing to do things to bring guys into this program, retaining talent. Finally, speaking on LSU, you have Ty Benefield, safety coming over from Boise State.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things about Ole Miss, coaching change or not, they produce NFL players. And I think that no matter who is coaching, they're going to produce NFL guys. And that's a really big selling point when it comes to recruiting. And they're continuing to do a good job. We talked about Daryl Gill from Syracuse coming in as a receiver. We talked about Edwin Joseph coming in from Florida State. Really impressive what they were able to do in the portal while pretty much working full time up until the end of the Fiesta Bowl. So they were doing double time and coaches were doing their thing. And then Ty Benefield, steal. Boise State, Mountain West, first team. He's going to be cold. He's going to replace AJ Holley for them at LSU. They should feel really good about him and where he's going to fit in that Baker defense.
Yeah, some good honorable mentions here. Let us know in the comments if there's some guys that maybe we left off here that you're excited for your team to have this year. As we get into the top three, number 3, I think I might be most excited about this guy on the list, and it's not flashy. Jacarius Peak. I had him lower on the list when we first put this together, kind of moved him up as the week went on because of, looking into a little bit more about what he did at NC State this year. We could call this the new ACC list because all we got is ACC guys, but
right.
NC State, Jacarius Peak going to South Carolina, an O-line that needed lots of improvement. And now you get a good left tackle.
Yeah, 6'4", 300 pounds, solid guy. That's a lean guy. And the last 4 games of the season, he didn't give up any pressures. 83.5 PFF grade, so good solid pass pro grade. More importantly, another big pickup for South Carolina's offensive line. This is like watching your NFL team draft a solid guard in the first round and a good tackle in the second round. You have players that you can be excited to watch this season and potentially going forward with these 2 guys from the ACC.
Yeah, great in pass pro, like you mentioned, 7th highest graded offensive tackle per PFF. Second most sacked quarterback last year was Lenore Sellers, 40 sacks, right behind Ball State quarterback. He's at 163 total pressures. He's a good quarterback. Didn't get to showcase it at times because the pressure was there before he could make anything happen. Found himself in long situations. Didn't really have the best weapons around him. I thought going into the offseason, there was going to be a lot of drop-off at South Carolina from players. Sellers going to Miami or something crazy like that. They've retained a lot. They've been able to bring in good guys too. They're not slowing down. So they're 21.3 points per game last year, which was low nationally and low in the SEC. Could go up now because you're building core weapons around some experienced units instead of trying to hodgepodge a team together. You're finding what you need.
Definitely. And it helps to have a good quarterback coming back, like you said, and his legacy will be remembered for that. He'll be able to be on the sidelines and all of that nature. But Jacarius Peak, really solid pickup. This guy could have entered the draft this year and was probably going to be a day 2, day 3 guy. So this is an NFL type player and a really good pickup.
Yeah. Number 2, the most talked about guy probably on this list in the transfer portal in general. Saw his visits everywhere to all kinds of different schools. Saw him courtside with Lane Kiffin. Now LSU has their quarterback in Sam Leavitt. He's a good quarterback. Won the Big 12 2 years ago. Highly experienced coming into LSU to be Lane Kiffin's guy for next year.
Absolutely. And as we know, Lane Kiffin can't do many things in a low-key fashion, and the camera follows him. So it's what it comes with. But Leavitt's a flashy guy. He's obviously 6 foot plus. He only played 7 games last year. He went 6-1 overall. I won't give him the L against Houston. He left the game kind of early in the matchup there. When we look at these games, he had a touchdown in every single game. He lost to Mississippi State. But what I think that this guy brings that Garrett Nussmeier didn't bring, and I know, is what he can do on the ground. In those 7 games, 5 rushing touchdowns. He's kind of a speedster.
Yeah. He can do things. I saw some comparisons to, a Bo Nix.
Yeah.
A little bit of Sam Darnold with the arm strength. I saw some of those comparisons there. I think, depending on how that injury recovers, the foot injury, which might leave him out for a little bit of spring ball, some of summer. Right. When he comes back, he'll fit in perfectly because of what he can do on the ground. I think that's very important. But I'll say what he has that Nussmeier didn't have and what LSU needed this year, confidence to push the ball downfield.
Yep.
That's something that he will do. He has a little bit of that clutch ability. not afraid to throw it downfield. They lack that this year, and I think pushing the ball downfield opens up everything else. And you're going to get that with the offense that's going to be developed there.
Right. And what we saw from Nuss, that what made him confident going into this year was his touchdown production. He had 29 touchdowns in 2024, but he also had about 12 or 13 interceptions in 2024. You look at a guy like Levitt in his last full season when he won the Big 12, he only had 6 interceptions. So he's pretty good at not turning the ball over. He doesn't really fumble the ball, which is important as a runner. And then more importantly, higher QBR, more rushing touchdowns. This could be an upgrade. Obviously, he's jumping conferences. People talk about the competitiveness of the SEC, but if that production is repeated, this is an upgrade to Gary Nussmeier, no doubt.
Yeah. And you have quarterbacks behind him too. You brought in Hassan Longstreet. This isn't about him. He's not on our honorable mention or anything, but you got USC quarterback Hassan Longstreet. Should, you go into spring ball, you have him there. Should something not heal right, re-injury to the foot, LSU did a good job of stacking up behind. So
yeah, the Elon quarterback they got, I think he was a CAA football player of the year for that conference. Like, he's overall pretty solid, and Cignetti used to coach there, so he's kind of built that program up in the FCS ranks.
Yeah, I don't think there will be a battle, but they're going to let these guys get reps, and should something happen, you got next guy up.
Yeah.
Number 1, last guy on the list, we alluded to him, Chaz Coleman, edge, D lineman, to Tennessee from Penn State. Some may look at the statistics on paper and think, hey, why is this guy up there? He didn't do a whole lot. Ask any Penn State fan. They'll tell you they're missing him, coming into next year. Ask any Ohio State fan who thought they were about to get him in the portal. They're not too happy that he ended up landing at Tennessee. Kentucky thought they were going to get him out of high school. Highly touted guy, and I think it's because of potential and eligibility that he has left, which is why I think there's so much prospective hope for this guy.
Absolutely. True freshman last year. You talked about the eligibility. He's got 3 full years left, and with the way the NCAA operates, who knows? He might get an extra year out as well. But he's got for sure 3 full years. Number 1 edge rusher in the portal at the time before he signed. Number 5 overall player in the portal, according to 24/7 Sports. This guy coming in from Penn State, as you mentioned, joined 2 of his other buddies. He came in as well with Xavier Gillum and one more guy from Penn State, all defensive players. So kind of like the Tennessee Nittany Lions right now, with the change with James Franklin obviously being let go and some of his guys going to other schools. Love this pickup. He'll replace Joshua Josephs, a guy that's going to be day 1, I think, in the NFL draft. And then just overall, it's a solid guy.
Yeah, and you see these guys following their DC, now at Tennessee with Knowles. He's going to get the guys that he believes in. He saw him at practice every day, didn't look at the 6 tackles, 1 sack or whatever that Chaz Coleman had. He looked at knowing what this guy's doing in practice and what he's going to do as he develops as a player. This is a good get, especially if you can retain over the next couple of years, continue to develop. We saw Tennessee need some defensive help this year. So this is a good pickup for them to continue on that path. So good pickups for Tennessee. And that's the top 10.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a lot of great additions coming into the conference, but from defensive linemen, offensive tackles, running backs. We talked about Smothers and the likes. It's going to be a good season. And, as always, if you like content like this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We're going to be talking more about the portal and some of the other things coming up here with the college football offseason. Once again, I'm Randall Jr. We got Hunter Ziesman. It's the new SEC podcast.